Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you, so let's begin. My name is Coda. I'm 36 years old, and the moment my marriage truly ended wasn't when I filed for divorce. It was when my wife casually announced her ex-boyfriend would be joining us for Christmas dinner and expected me to be mature about it. I'd been married to Diana for 9 years. We had a son together, who was 7 years old. In the early years, our marriage had been good. Not perfect, but solid. We'd built a life together, bought a house in the suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, established routines and traditions for our small family. But over the past year, everything has changed. The warmth had drained out of our relationship, like water from a cracked vessel. We'd gone from partners to roommates, from lovers to people who happened to share a house and a child. Diana had become distant and emotionally unavailable. We'd have conversations that felt like we were reading from scripts rather than actually connecting. She'd spend more evenings out. Always had explanations and excuses. I suspected something was wrong. Had that gnawing feeling in my gut that told me she was pulling away for a reason. But I was tired, emotionally exhausted from trying to hold together a marriage that felt like it was dissolving in my hands. And I stayed primarily for Noah, 7 years old. Still young enough that divorce would fundamentally reshape his childhood. I told myself that maintaining stability for him was worth the emotional emptiness I felt in my marriage. I worked for a construction company while Diana worked in pharmaceutical sales, which meant travel occasionally and a lot of client dinners and networking events. For over a year, our household ran on logistics rather than love. Who was picking up Noah from school? Whose turn it was to make dinner? When bills were due, functional but hollow. One evening in early December, Diana was decorating while I helped minimally, putting up the tree, hanging lights, the annual ritual that used to feel warm and now just felt obligatory. Noah was upstairs playing. Diana was hanging ornaments on the tree. I was untangling a string of lights when she said, "My ex will be joining us for Christmas dinner. Be mature about it, please." I stopped mid-motion, looked at her. What? She didn't even turn around, just kept hanging ornaments like she'd announced we were having turkey instead of ham. After some seconds of silence, she repeated, "My ex, Jeffrey's going to be in town for the holidays and doesn't have anywhere to go. I invited him to join us for Christmas dinner. I'm sure you can handle that maturely." I stood there holding the tangled lights, trying to process what I'd just heard. Jeffrey. Her ex-boyfriend from before we met. The guy she'd dated in her early 20s for about 2 years. The relationship that had ended badly. I remembered because when we first started dating, Diana had told me about him. Had described him as manipulative and emotionally abusive. Said he'd humiliated her multiple times, taken advantage of her financially. Left her with trust issues she'd had to work through. She told me once years ago that she never wanted to see or hear from Jeffrey again, that he represented a painful chapter she'd closed permanently. And now she was inviting him to our family Christmas dinner? I told her, no problem. Diana glanced at me, maybe surprised by my easy agreement. Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this. She went back to decorating. I went back to the lights, but my mind was storming. This made no sense. Jeffrey had been living across the country, California, I thought, for years. Why would he suddenly be in Charlotte for Christmas with nowhere to go? Why would Diana, who'd claimed to have no contact with him, even know he'd be in town? Something was very wrong. That night, after Diana fell asleep, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying her words. The more I thought about it, the clearer things became. Diana's increased absences, her emotional distance, the way she'd check her phone constantly and angle it away from me when messages came in. I'd been willfully blind, I realized, choosing stability and denial over confronting uncomfortable truths. But this, inviting her ex to our family Christmas, was forcing my hand. I'd always known Diana's phone password without her knowledge. She'd never changed it from what she'd set when we first got married, for digits based on her childhood street address. I'd used it occasionally over the years for innocuous reasons. But I'd never used it to investigate. Never snooped. Trusted her privacy even as I felt her pulling away. 2 days after her announcement about Jeffrey, that changed. Diana had been home in the evening, then gone to take a shower. Left her phone charging on the kitchen counter. I looked at it sitting there, then made a decision. I picked up the phone, entered the password I know, and it unlocked. I went straight and opened her messages and scrolled to Jeffrey's name. What I found confirmed everything I'd feared and worse. Their messages was going back weeks. Frequent, intimate, flirtatious, and references to time spent together, with plans to meet up. I scrolled back through the timeline, saw that Jeffrey had moved back to Charlotte about a week ago. He wasn't just in town for the holidays, he'd been here. And Diana had been seeing him. Messages about meeting for drinks after work. References to a night they'd spent together. Diana had told me that night she was staying at her friend's house because the friend was going through something and needed support. But the messages showed the truth. She'd been at a hotel with Jeffrey. I felt cold and numb almost immediately. I took screenshots, dozens of them, methodically captured the messages, made sure I had dates and context. Then I put the phone back where I'd found it, exactly as it had been, and walked to the living room. Sat on the couch in the dim light of the Christmas tree we'd decorated together. Looked at those lights twinkling, at the ornaments we'd collected over 9 years of marriage, at the stockings hung for our family, and realized this was all ending. Not because of the affair, though that was devastating, but because Diana felt so secure in my complacency that she'd invited her affair partner to our home. Expected me to sit there and play host while she flaunted her betrayal in front of our son. That level of disrespect, of certainty that I'd tolerate anything, told me more about what our marriage had become than any affair could. The shower turned off. I heard Diana moving around upstairs. She appeared 10 minutes later in pajamas, hair wet, smelling like her shampoo, on her way to the kitchen for water. I watched her and thought, you have no idea what's coming. That night I lay in bed next to her, both of us on our separate sides like we'd been sleeping for months, and I started planning. The next day, while at work, I pulled up Facebook on my computer during lunch. Searched for Jeffrey's profile. I found it easily and could see most of his posts and photos. And I saw something that changed everything. 6 months ago, Jeffrey had updated his relationship status to engaged. Tagged another woman, Samantha Pierce. I clicked on Samantha's profile. She was pretty, looked to be in her early 30s. From her photos and posts, she seemed genuine. But the love of her life is currently having an affair with my wife and planning to spend Christmas at my dinner table. I sat at my desk staring at Samantha's profile, at her complete ignorance of what her fiancé was doing behind her back. And I made a decision. I decided to message Samantha, taking my time in composing it, and kept it direct. Hi, Samantha. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. Your fiancé, Jeffrey, has been seeing my wife, Diana, for the past week. I know because she invited him to our family Christmas dinner, claiming he'd be alone for the holidays. I'm attaching screenshots from their conversations. I thought you should know, before he lies to you, about where he'll be. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this. Attached the most damning screenshots. Messages that made the affair obvious. References to their night at the hotel. Flirtatious exchanges that couldn't be explained away as friendship. Then hit send. I wasn't sure if she'd respond or sure if she'd believe me. She might think it was some kind of prank or manipulation. But I'd done what I could to warn her. The rest was up to her. Hours passed. No response. That evening at home, I acted normal. Helped my child with homework. Went through all our usual evening routines like nothing had changed. Around 10 that night, after Diana and our son were both asleep, I checked Facebook account and saw that Samantha had replied. Who is this? How do I know this is real? I responded immediately. I'm Diana's husband. Jeffrey told Samantha he was traveling to see family during Christmas week. But actually he's coming to our house for dinner. My wife thinks I don't know about their affair. I found out 2 days ago. The screenshots are from her phone. I waited and saw the 3 dots indicating she was typing. Her response came through. He did tell me he was going to visit family that week. His mother in Florida. He said, "So he's actually coming to your house? To Christmas dinner?" "Yes." My wife invited him, told me he had nowhere to go, and expected me to be mature about it. Long pause. Then, "I need to think about this. Can you prove it? That dinner invitation." I thought for a moment, then typed, "I can do better than prove it. You're welcome to come to the dinner yourself. If you want to see the truth in person, if you want to confront both of them, come see it with your own eyes." Even longer pause. Could see she was online, probably reading and rereading my message. Finally, "What's the address and time?" I gave her both. Added, "You don't have to decide now. But the invitation stands. They think they're getting away with something. Maybe it's time they both faced consequences." Her last message that night, "I'll let you know." Over the next 2 weeks leading up to Christmas, life continued with surreal normalcy. Diana finalized plans for the dinner, decided on the menu, made a grocery list, asked me to pick up wine and put up exterior decorations, all while texting Jeffrey, which I could see every time I checked her phone during moments she left it unattended. I played my role, helpful husband, engaged father, acted like everything was fine while documenting everything. More messages, dates she claimed to be working late, but her phone location showed she was with Jeffrey. I built a case, not just for confrontation, but for what would come after. For days before Christmas, Samantha messaged again, "I'm coming. I'll be there. He doesn't know." I told him I'm visiting my sister. I replied, "Thank you. I know this is hard, but you deserve the truth." "So do you," she wrote back. The days crawled by. Diana got more excited as Christmas approached. Bought a new dress for the dinner. Got her hair done. Put extra effort into her appearance in a way she hadn't for me in over a year. Our son was excited about Christmas, presents, decorations, the magic of being 7 and still believing. I held on to that, his innocent joy, as a reminder of what I was fighting to protect through all of this. Christmas Eve, Diana reminded me one more time, "Jeffrey is coming at 7 tomorrow. Please be civil." "Of course," I said. Smiled even. "It's Christmas." She looked relieved. "Thank you for being understanding about this. I know it's a little unconventional, but he really doesn't have anywhere else to go." The lies came so easily to her now. I wondered how long she'd been this good at deception, or if the affair had taught her. Christmas morning, our son woke us up early. I focused on the boy, on making the day special for him, while Diana kept checking her phone and the clock. By late afternoon, I started preparing for dinner. Diana had done most of the cooking, turkey, sides, desserts. I set the table, put out the good dishes, lit candles. The house looked beautiful. Snow had started falling outside, white and clean. Lights glowed warm from the windows. Everything looked picture perfect from the outside. Our son was in the living room, playing with his new toys, Christmas music playing softly. Diana was upstairs getting ready. Could hear her moving around, taking extra time with her appearance. I changed into slacks and a button-down. Looked at myself in the mirror. Tried to prepare mentally for what was about to happen. Checked my phone. Message from Samantha. "I'm an hour away. Nervous, but ready." I replied, "It'll be okay. Thank you for coming." 6:55. Diana came downstairs in her new dress, makeup done, looking more put together than she had in months. She surveyed the dining room, made a few small adjustments to the table setting. "Everything looks perfect," she said, smiling. "Yeah," I agreed. "Perfect." At exactly 7, the doorbell rang. Diana's face lit up. She'd been glancing at the clock for the past 20 minutes. That must be him. She rushed to the door, adjusting her dress as she went. I stayed in the dining room. Could hear her open the door. Could hear the warmth in her voice. "Jeffrey, so glad you could make it." "Diana, you look amazing." The sound of their hug. That moment lasting just a beat too long. They came into view. Jeffrey was tall, well-dressed, carrying a bottle of wine. He smiled when he saw me. "Coda, good to see you. Thanks for having me." Extended his hand. I took it. A firm handshake, holding eye contact just a bit too long. Establishing dominance or testing boundaries, I wasn't sure which. Of course. Welcome, I said. We moved to the dining room. Our son came running in, curious about the guest. Diana introduced them. Jeffrey was good with kids, played along with the boys' excitement about his Christmas presents, asked appropriate questions. We all sat. Started with appetizers Diana had prepared. Made small talk. Surface-level conversation about the weather, about Jeffrey's work, about the holidays. Jeffrey and Diana kept catching each other's eyes. The kind of intimate communication that happens between people who've been sharing more than conversation. I watched it all. Said little, while observing. 20 minutes passed. The food was excellent. The atmosphere felt increasingly claustrophobic despite my calm exterior. Then the doorbell rang again. Diana frowned. Who could that be? I stood. I'll get it. I walked to the front door. Diana following partway, confused. I opened it. Samantha stood there. She was dressed nicely, but modestly. Held a small wrapped gift in her hands. Her expression was composed, but her eyes were hard with determination. Good evening, she said clearly. I hope I'm not interrupting. I stepped aside. Not at all. Please come in. I could feel Diana, behind me. Felt her shock in the sudden stillness. Samantha walked in. She and I exchanged a brief look, solidarity, between two people who'd been betrayed. We walked back to the dining room. Diana hadn't moved. Jeffrey's face had gone completely white. His wine glass frozen halfway to his mouth. Everyone, I said calmly, this is Samantha. Samantha, this is my wife Diana, our son and Jeffrey. The room was silent except for the Christmas music still playing faintly in the background. My son, oblivious to the tension, said, Hi. Samantha smiled at him. Suat Farat. Merry Christmas. Then she looked at Jeffrey. Hello, honey. Surprise. Jeffrey set down his glass, opened his mouth to say something, but nothing came out. Samantha. Diana's voice was thin. What are you doing here? I'm Jeffrey's fiancée, Samantha said evenly. She walked to the table and sat down in the empty chair. Coda invited me. Thought I should see where my future husband was really spending Christmas, since he told me he'd be in Florida with his mother. You could have heard a pin drop. I walked to my seat and sat down, picked up my fork and started eating as if nothing unusual was happening. The silence stretched. Diana and Jeffrey looked at each other, both pale, both clearly trying to figure out what to say. Finally, Diana forced a laugh. There's been some misunderstanding. Has there? Samantha's voice stayed calm. Because from what I understand, you and Jeffrey have been spending quite a bit of time together lately. Late nights, hotel rooms, very frequent texting. Would you call that a misunderstanding? We're old friends, Diana said weakly. We've just been catching up. Interesting. Jeffrey told me he hadn't spoken to you in years, that you were ancient history. I guess he lied. Samantha looked at Jeffrey. How many other lies have there been? How long has this been going on? Jeffrey tried to speak. Samantha, I can explain. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you have a wonderful explanation prepared, but I don't think I want to hear it. Samantha fired back. She turned to Diana. So how long have you and your ex been catching up? Diana's face was red. This is completely inappropriate. Coda, what is this? Did you invite her here? I did, I said calmly. Thought everyone deserved the truth. Samantha deserves to know who she's engaged to. I deserve to know who I'm married to. Seemed like a good opportunity for honesty. You set me up, Diana hissed. No. I just stopped pretending I didn't know what was happening. Jeffrey stood up. Samantha, please, can we talk privately? There's nothing private about this, Samantha cut him off. You've been cheating on me. She's been cheating on her husband. Everyone at this table knows the truth now. What's left to talk about? My son was looking around confused. Why is everyone upset? I stood and called him. Buddy, why don't you go play in your room for a bit? Take some cookies with you. He nodded, sensing the adult tension, and left quickly. Once he was gone, I turned back to the table. Diana was crying. How could you do this to me? On Christmas. How could I? I replied. The absurdity hit me. Diana, you invited your affair partner to our family Christmas and expected me to sit here and smile about it. You've been cheating on me for weeks, lying constantly, and you're asking how I could do this to you. Samantha was looking at Jeffrey. We're done. I want you to know that. I came here because I needed to see it for myself. Needed to know for sure before I made my decision. But now I've seen enough. She pulled her engagement ring off her finger, set it on the table with a soft clink. Merry Christmas, Jeffrey. I hope she's worth it. Samantha stood, grabbed her coat, and walked toward the door. Jeffrey scrambled after her. Samantha, wait please. Don't follow me. Don't call me. Don't contact me at all. My lawyer will be in touch about canceling the wedding. She walked out. The door closed behind her with finality. Jeffrey stood in the hallway, looking lost. Then looked back at Diana and me. Read the room. Realized there was nothing left for him here. I should go, he mumbled. Yeah, I agreed. You should. He grabbed his coat and left. Didn't even take the wine he'd brought. Diana and I were alone in the dining room. The table still set with food no one had eaten. Candles still burning. Christmas music still playing like everything was normal. She was crying openly now. You've ruined everything. I was shocked with her statement. I ruined it? Diana, you had an affair. You invited him here. You destroyed this marriage. She claimed we could have worked through it. But I told her no. We couldn't have. Because you don't respect me enough to have even tried. You were so certain I'd just accept anything that you brought him into our home. On Christmas. In front of our son. I walked toward the stairs. I'm filing for divorce after the holidays. You should start thinking about what's ahead for you. I'll be seeking primary custody. I have documentation of your affair. Messages, evidence of you prioritizing your relationship with Jeffrey over our family. Any judge will see what kind of judgment you've been exercising. Her face crumpled. But I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just emptiness. Maturity isn't silence, I said quietly. It's knowing when something's over and accepting it. I went upstairs. Found our son in his room playing with his new toys, trying to pretend he hadn't heard raised voices. Everything okay, Dad? Everything's going to be okay, buddy. Merry Christmas. I hugged him, held him for a long moment. He was what mattered. Protecting him. Making sure he had stability even as his parents' marriage fell apart. That night, I slept in the guest room. Heard Diana crying in our bedroom. Felt nothing. The day after Christmas, I contacted a divorce attorney who specialized in custody cases. Showed her everything. The messages, the evidence of Diana's lies, documentation of her prioritizing her affair over our family responsibilities. The attorney said I had a strong case for primary custody. That Diana's behavior showed poor judgment that would concern a family court judge. We filed in early January. Served Diana with papers. She was shocked even though I'd told her it was coming. The divorce process took months. It was ugly. Diana fought for joint custody. Tried to claim I'd manipulated the situation on Christmas, that I'd traumatize her by inviting Samantha. But the evidence spoke for itself. The affair. The lies. The hotel nights she'd spent away from our family. The way she'd brought Jeffrey into our home. By late spring, we had a custody agreement. I got primary custody. Our son would live with me, see Diana on alternating weekends and some holidays. I got the house. Diana moved to an apartment across town. The marriage was over. Dissolved in paperwork and court orders, and the division of assets accumulated over 9 years. My son adjusted better than I'd feared. Kids are resilient. We established new routines. I made sure he saw both his parents, maintained relationships with both sides of the family. Looking back now, almost a year later, I understand several things clearly. I learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for everyone involved is expose the truth, even when it's painful. Samantha deserved to know who she was marrying. I deserved to stop living a lie. Even Diana and Jeffrey deserved to face the consequences of their choices rather than continuing to deceive everyone. I learned that being mature doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. Diana wanted me to be mature about her having her affair partner at our family dinner. But real maturity meant recognizing that situation as unacceptable and refusing to participate in the charade. I learned that evidence matters. Documentation matters. When Diana tried to paint me as the villain in our divorce, I had screenshots and receipts and a timeline that told the true story. I learned that sometimes the trash takes itself out. Diana's decision to invite Jeffrey to Christmas was so egregious, so brazen, that it forced me to finally act on what I'd been avoiding for months. If she'd been more careful, I might have stayed in denial longer. I learned that protecting your child is more important than preserving a broken marriage. Our son is better off in a stable home with one parent who's present than in a household filled with lies and resentment. Most importantly, I learned that you teach people how to treat you by what you accept. I'd accepted Diana's emotional distance, her absence, her disrespect for so long that she genuinely believed she could invite her affair partner to our home, and I'd just smile and serve dinner. That Christmas dinner was me drawing a line I should have drawn months earlier. Some people think what I did was petty, that inviting Samantha was manipulative or cruel. I disagree. Everyone at that table got exactly what they needed. Truth, clarity, consequences. Samantha got to see who she was engaged to before she married him. Jeffrey got exposed for being a cheater and a liar. Diana got confronted with her choices in a way she couldn't minimize or explain away. That's not petty. That's justice. Diana wanted me to be mature about Christmas dinner, but she just didn't like what maturity actually looked like. Because it looked like truth and consequences and walking away from something broken instead of pretending it could be fixed. My marriage ended that Christmas, but my real life began, and that's something I'm genuinely grateful for, even if the path there was painful. Sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is permission to stop accepting the unacceptable. I gave myself that gift on Christmas, and I've never regretted it.